Wire Monkeys. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Cabling. This week we're talking about computer certifications. Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, technicians, project managers, estimators, ICT personnel, even customers. We are connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this show on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being produced? If you're listening to us on one of the audio podcast platforms, would you mind leaving us a 5-star rating? Those simple little steps helps us take on the algorithm so we can educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of people in the ICT industry. Thursday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? You know I do a live stream where you get to ask your favorite RCDD, you know that's me, questions on installation, certification, design, and project management, even career path questions. But I can hear you now. But Chuck, I'm driving my truck on Thursday at 6 p.m. I don't want to get into an accident. That's okay. They are recorded, and you can access them at letstalkcabling.com. And finally, while this show is free and will always remain free, if you find value in this content and you would like to support this show, would you click on that QR code right there? You can buy me a cup of coffee. You can even schedule a 15-minute one-on-one call with me, after hours, of course. Or you can also visit the webpage and look up our recommended products and use the Amazon links. You won't pay extra, but we will make a small stipend off it. And furthermore, we are always looking for corporate sponsors. So if you're a corporation looking to sponsor a podcast that's educating, encouraging, enriching, an agnostic platform, reach out to me on social media so we can get this done. I saw a post the other day where somebody said certifications not directly related to your job are worthless. I don't agree with that. But I will agree that ICT technicians now are being asked to do way more than just pulling cable. They might be installing DAS or WAPs or hubs, routers, switches, access control. And a lot of that takes more skills than those skills required for pulling, terminating, and testing cable. So computer certification is a career path that a lot of technicians look at to go beyond cable skills. And CompTIA is one of those companies that does those certifications. And I've known of CompTIA for a long time, decades as a matter of fact. But when I was at the NECA Bixie Summit in Denver, I happened to see that they had a booth. So I stopped and got to chatting with them and I said, hey, do you guys want to come on the show and talk computer certifications? And of course, they said yes. So welcome to the show, Ron Culler and Jeff Parker. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing great, Chuck. Thanks.
I appreciate you guys coming on the show. I've been wanting to get you guys on for a long, long time. I just never expressed that. Here's the problem is because, and you guys probably the same way as me. Well, I'm sitting down watching TV with my wife at nights. My brain doesn't disengage, right? I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about things I could do with the show and stuff like that. And several times the thought has come across my head that I need to have CompTIA on the show because what happens is a lot of technicians will get into the industry to pull cable, and then they see those guys coming in behind them, setting up the workstations and putting in the servers, and and they're like, man, I don't have to pull cable. I can do that. So then it's a natural progression, right? So they want to get their certification. So first off, let's start off with, because I don't assume everybody knows who CompTIA is. So let's start with that. Who is CompTIA and how was that company formed? Who wants to take that one?
Jeff?
Sure. So thanks, Chuck. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while since we met in Denver. So CompTIA, we're a nonprofit. Our mission is to advance the global IT industry. We contribute to the growth and development of ICT and computer industry in several ways. The 30,000 view here is research. We do a lot of research within this channel. Where are threats coming from? What are the skills that people need to be successful in particular job roles? We do a lot of analysis when it comes to those job skills in particular, like we're going to talk about that a lot today. Education and training is a big piece of what we do. So, once we identify job skills in particular roles, how do we help people develop those skills? How do we help people accredit those skills? And that's where our certifications come in. So certifications, research, education, and training. And then we do have a philanthropic arm where I don't know about you, Chuck, but with a lot of industries, younger and younger kids need to be engaged to get them interested in, let's say, jobs that they may not have thought of. And by the time they get to high school or they're seniors and they're looking at their career path, they may not have done any of the work to help develop into those
Right.
job skills.
Right. I
Ron,
think
what would you
we
add?
talked about, this during the pre-show call. A lot of young, and there's nothing wrong with this. Don't take this the wrong way, but there's a lot
That's
of
right.
young people who want to become content creators, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But they don't realize all the background stuff. So I always told my boys when they were all growing up, because they wanted to be professional skateboarders. So always have a backup
Yeah.
plan, right? Always
Yes.
have a backup
Yes.
plan. And this is perfect. That's why I said you guys mentioned something about you were doing the middle school education during that pre-show thing, and I love that because if
Yeah.
because they're already exposed to devices, right? Yeah, I mean, when you look at when I was in school, we didn't have devices, right? We had pens and paper and stuff like that. And even though technically I'm a boomer, I'm an early adopter. I had a Radio Shack TRS-80 in 1982. So I'm an
Mm-hmm.
early adopter. So I really kind of consider myself like
So
almost a
my,
millennial, but not a boomer. But so I'm an early adopter, and we need to get to those kids now who they already got the experience in playing with computers. If you want something fixed on your computer, ask your kid. they probably know how to do it already. So why not
mm-hmm.
capitalize on that momentum and give them the skills? And you're right, not everybody can be a content creator because it's a very competitive field, and not
Mm-hmm.
everybody can be a lawyer. Some people, sometimes the world needs ditch diggers, and I'm not saying having a computer certification is a big ditch digger, right? But my point is, there's some people who love doing it. There's some people. One of my sons loves. He works in a nursery, not a
Mm-hmm.
kid's nursery, but a nursery doing plants.
Yeah.
He loves
Right.
being outside. He loves being with. Okay, so some people want to do computers, and why not get them young, right?
Yeah.
I did not know that CompTIA was a nonprofit. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
new to
We
me.
are.
That's new to me. So I guess you would you said you do some philanthropy.
A philanthropic, Chuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to practice that word myself.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so Tech Girls, just there's a program we do called Tech Girls. It's about engaging middle school girls into IT, and we offer a lot of free resources, a lot of free online virtual courses. And we're also endeavoring through that program and others to diversify the workforce.
Now let me ask you this, and this wasn't one of our pre-scheduled questions, but I'm
Sure.
sure you probably answered pretty quickly. Is CompTIA just a U.S. based certification program, or can people outside of the U.S. get CompTIA certified or CompTIA credentials?
We're global.
Nice.
Have been for quite a while. We're actually the largest uh, industry certification body globally.
I've always known that the IT industry, the ICT industry was global, but I never really thought about it until I started my podcast because I expected all my audience to be US based, but a full probably 40% are outside of the US, the UK, UAE, Saudi Arabia. I mean, I'm flattered, that goes out that big, but you're right. This does reach more than just outside the shores of America. So, yeah. So what kind of courses does CompTIA provide?
Everything from the foundations of what IT is or foundations of what technology is, all the way up into our most advanced courses in cybersecurity and data analytics and cloud infrastructure and server systems and things like that. So it's really kind of over the entire IT spectrum or the technology spectrum is what we're looking for, and we're looking to actively grow that. So we're looking at new certifications and refreshes of old certifications. That's one thing that sets us out a little unique is that our certifications aren't stale. It's not a one and done. You don't get it and then walk away forever saying you're certified.
Right.
We have to refresh our certifications every 3 years, and because of that, we're constantly updating the content of those things. So we're dropping off old technology, adding in new technology, it's something, I mean, you know as well as I do that things have changed throughout our, our 30 plus years in this industry, and if you don't stay current, you're going to get left behind.
Oh, absolutely. I remember as a young technician, we were doing cabling at a law firm in Washington D.C., one of the
Mhm.
largest law firms in Washington D.C. And so we're sitting there, we're pulling cable into the data center, and they're building this cabinet. It's like 4 feet wide by 4 feet deep, and it's like 10 feet tall. And we're pulling cable, and I just kind of, hey, what are they building? He goes, oh yeah, man, we're putting in a 1 gigabit drive.
Mhm.
Yeah,
1 gigabit. Yeah. There's more memory on my phone now
right.
than that huge device. So our industry moves at the speed of light, and it's always changing. So let me ask you this about the certifications. If somebody gets a certification, is it kind of like the Big C credentials where you have to get CECs to renew it, or is it, how does that work?
Yes. Yeah, we have a continuing ed program where you can actually do, you can watch webinars, attend conferences, uh, take additional course material. You can take other certifications that can count towards it, and we even have our own refreshes so that you can actually take one of our CertMaster CE courses, and you go through, it's I think about 8 hours of study material depending on the certification, and then you're able to take the exam at the end of it, and you're good for another 3 years.
Oh, nice. I like that. So I would like to frame our conversation
Mhm.
to my audience. My audience is going to be the young emerging professionals in ICT, information communication technologies. Right
Yeah.
now, they might be pulling cable, and they could be anywhere from like 18 to about 35. They may have literally just a few months of experience, or they might have like 10 years experience, but they've only been pulling cable, and now they're really starting to think of, hey, I want to get into this computer stuff. And the
Mhm.
funny thing is, you would think that somebody's in the ICT industry would already have some skill sets with computers.
Mhm.
The fact is quite opposite. A lot of times, what I find is, especially when I'm teaching face to face classes and people have to come to my computer to sign in on an Excel spreadsheet, they're literally
Right.
doing this, typing it in. They don't even know the home row,
I still do that.
So, and it's,
Yeah.
you're right. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, but if you can do it really
Yeah.
fast, yeah. So,
Mhm.
so what would be a good education or certification path for somebody with that kind of history?
Sure. Yeah. So, it's if we start at the very beginning where they don't have a lot of technical background, they're just starting to look into that as a part of their career, or as a need as their job roles are expanding, and tech is touching everything. I would look at what we call ITF plus, IT Fundamentals plus. That's almost a pre-career cert. It helps individuals identify as basic understandings of technology. A little bit of networking, a little bit of cybersecurity, a little bit of troubleshooting. Just touching it so that you're very comfortable there. In some of the courses that we have, there's actually here's the home row for your laptop. This is where you start when you type. It can be that simple, all the way up through here's what a network handshake might look like. So I would almost, if they don't have a strong background in technology, I would look at ITF plus first. And then from there you can look at what we call CompTIA A plus. That is a help desk cert. There's an awful lot of great content in there. I was actually just talking to somebody out in Scottsdale. Um, Basic networking. What's the handshake? What's it mean to network? How do two different devices speak so that they can operate together on a network? Very basic stuff. There's the troubleshooting procedure, which I got to tell you, I value that more and more. So if something you connect doesn't work, how do you troubleshoot it in a way that there's procedure that you can follow and get down to what the real problem is? A plus has that in there, and then basic cybersecurity is a core part of A plus. So those are kind of three things within A plus I highly recommend. And then from there, it depends on what, if you're going into IT as a full-time career, or if you're part of a electrical contracting firm and you're starting to do more government work and you're starting to do more network, commercial or residential. Network Plus, which is network engineering, or Security Plus, cybersecurity specialist, I would recommend. Ron, what are you thinking?
Yeah, same thing. We actually are building out career pathways. So we want to be able to take somebody that can come in and say, I'm interested in a career in technology. I don't know what, but I'm interested in this career, and that the ITF is that first piece of it. A plus is a starting point for both our infrastructure, the traditional IT, servers and switches and routers and things, and also our cybersecurity. Then you take that network plus, to give you that understanding of, all the cables that you're pulling around and all the switches that these things are plugging into, why and what. And then you can step up and go into servers and operating systems in the cloud, or you can go into security and analytics and pen testing and architecture design and all kinds of things. But these are a stepping stone process. And we're not the only industry certifications out there. But what we are vendor neutral. So our certifications are unique in that we provide the foundational knowledge of why these things exist. And then if you're, say, working with Cisco equipment, then you take Cisco certifications to learn how to use their tools. You may take a Netgear certification to learn how to use their tools, or Microsoft, or so on. So we're that foundational piece. Once people finish our certifications, they understand why we're able to, why you use these technologies and why these things operate the way they do.
I love the fact that you're vendor neutral. I mean, there's always going to be a need for specific training by manufacturers. Even on the cable side, we have those. There's cable manufacturer A will give you training on how to install their stuff, and but there are some foundational skills that goes across all of them. So I love the fact that you do that. What if there's somebody out there who has been tinkering around with some computers for a while? Is there a way that do you have to go through a certain sequence of certifications, or can you jump anywhere in those? And if you can, is there a process for like showing you have that knowledge or those skills to be able to sit for that exam?
Well, you can actually take the exam. So if you want, you can actually go out and take it. You don't have to go through a learning course or anything like that. It's helpful. So for people that don't have that information, we publish our learning objectives, or the exam objectives. So the areas that we're going to focus on, you can see that's published on our website. So when you look at an A+ certification or a Security Plus, like we just really updated our Security Plus, and we've got a lot of new areas. So we're looking at general security concepts, threats and vulnerabilities, architecture, operations, program management. So those are areas. If you have that knowledge, then you can take the exam.
So if I'm looking to take that test, and I go on the CompTIA website and I look at that list, I can use that as a study guide to say, oh, I'm good here, there, but I need to maybe learn some more on cybersecurity, something like that, as maybe like a study plan.
You can. We also have our CertMaster Learn products. We've got our test out products as well that are extremely beneficial. And what's nice is you can get into one of these things, and it's a self-paced, and you can go back and review, and it's an adaptive learning. So as you're learning this, if you have areas of difficulty, you can go back and refresh. And one of the things that sets our exams apart from a lot of other entities or organizations is that they're testing skills. So you actually have to do things. So there are virtual environments and things where you're actually having part of the exam, you're actually having to go in and type commands and do things. Okay, so it's not just memorization and then you're out the door. So these are practical performance based, and that's what a lot of employers are looking for. That they don't want somebody with just a certification or a degree or some kind of piece of paper that says, "Oh, you did it." They want to know you actually have skills, and our certifications do that.
Yeah, there's book smart, and then there's street smart.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly,
Right?
and that's the
Yeah.
thing.
It is
Uh,
it is what it is. You
It
know.
is.
I would suggest, for example, let's say Chuck, I know you've got Bixie's project management cert, which is a great, strong certification, high end. We have Project Plus, which is not as stringent. So if you were like, you've had some project management experience, you're looking at our website and you're like, I think Project Plus, I could sit and take this. I know people who have done it and passed it, or A plus or other exams. I always recommend, at a minimum, consider taking a practice exam. If you're going to take a practice exam, our Cert Master Practice has 700-800 questions. I would at least sit for that, and you score 85-90%. I always suggest 90% because I want people to feel very comfortable walking into an exam. You score 85-90% on one of our practice exams, you can feel pretty comfortable. Now, with Cert Master Practice is going to point out, like, okay, you're not ready here, here, and here, then I would look at additional study material. But yes, people have taken our exams cold. It's an experience. Our exams are set up a little bit differently than a lot of the other exams in the industry. So I always recommend at least get some practice time under your belt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great.
and you can't take our tests online sitting at home. You actually have to go into a facility
You read my
and
mind. I was just
actually
going
take
to
it.
ask how you do those.
Yeah,
I'm assuming like Pearson View or something like that.
right, right. They're all proctored exams. So
Okay.
there's somebody there. There's a camera behind you. They're watching. So you're not cheating. They want to make sure that you're actually doing the job.
I swear you're so good you read my mind, because as he's sitting there saying, I'm thinking, I wonder if they conduct this like you just log in from your home, or you do it through Pearson View. So quit reading my mind. It's there's not enough room for me in this head, and I can't handle other people inside of it. Oh, and full transparency, and this is not Jeff's fault. I don't have the Bixie project management certification. I don't.
Oh,
I have the
I'm sorry,
RC.
Chuck. I
And that's
apologize.
fine. I just want to make sure that the person listening to this doesn't hear that and think that Chuck has that. Chuck has the
Okay,
RCDD and the technician certification, but I
that's
don't have the
right.
project management one. And that's not because I don't want it. It's just I'm towards the end of my career, and what's another certification going to do right now?
Hmm.
So I'm not saying I
Okay.
won't
project
do it. It may,
project management's a dark art anyway. So
and I was a project manager for 15 years, and I'm telling you, it's a tough position to have. It truly is. It
yeah.
really is, especially if you come from the field. Because then
Hmm.
this show is not about project management. Let's squirrel squirrel.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. My apologies.
No, it wasn't
I
your
thought you had
fault.
that, Chuck. I
I just want to make
apologize.
sure that I clarify that, because I don't want somebody hear you say that,
Yeah,
and then later on down the line say, "Well, Chuck took the Bixie project manager class." Chuck has not. Chuck has been a
yeah.
project manager for 15 years, but I have
That's what
not
it
taken
was.
that certification.
Right.
So, but there you go. So let's talk about skills, right? So as a
Mhm.
cable technician, some of the skills you need to have. You can't be colorblind. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be somewhat physically fit. And when I say somewhat, I mean you got to be able to pick up like 50 pounds. You got to be able to climb up a
Sure.
ladder, climb down a ladder, and stuff like that. What kind of skills, if somebody's doing a self inventory, what kind of skills should that person have if they want to go down the whole CompTIA credentialing route?
What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah. So a desire to learn, and always, I think that's the primary one, honestly. I mean, there needs to be a natural affinity for this kind of work, whether it's, you're pulling cable or fiber or whatever you're doing. There's a part of you that needs to enjoy the work. But I also think that the ongoing learning that we need to do, especially with the markets changing as quickly as they are and AI coming in and everything else, I think this desire to learn and not being not letting your skills kind of dull over time. I think that's an essential ingredient to be successful. I think in any career, honestly, but especially in IT and cyber and help desk, whatever the job role may be, you have to have that deep seated desire to just ongoing education. And the flip side of that is knowing how you like to learn. If you don't know that now, find that out, because like my oldest son is very visual. My daughter likes to read. My other son is audio. And that's we had to tailor solutions for them as we were helping them kind of move through
Mhm.
an education. If you can figure out how you learn best, and you don't lose that desire to learn, you're going to be very successful in any of our certifications. Ron, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of a tech job is that when you're to that point, you're done pulling cables, you're done climbing
Yeah.
ladders, you're done crawling under floors, or you know uh, in basements of buildings or whatever it may be. You know, you're looking for something that's warm or moderately warm because you may be in a computer room, uh,
Mhm.
but something that you can you can do regardless of whatever physical limitations you may have, and that's the beauty of technology. And this stuff is so much of what we do is remote now. After the pandemic hit, that just changed a lot of things. We can do the vast majority of our work without actually ever having to leave a home or a facility, and that's a great thing.
I love, Jeff, when you pointed out that you have to know the way that you learn the best.
Yeah.
In school, middle school and high school, I was actually labeled SLRD, special learning and reading disabilities.
Hmm.
And it wasn't because I had a disability. It was because Chuck was lazy. And when I did they give you that exam every other year that you have to fill. I just said ABCA. I didn't even read the questions. I was
Hmm.
lazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
public schools, well, don't get me wrong, because I have friends that are public school teachers and they're fantastic,
Hmm.
but that whole system doesn't really encourage out of the box thinking, right? And you never know what skills you might learn in a public school that might help you
Yeah.
later. In my 10th grade, I took typing. Right
Hmm.
now, here's why I
Yeah.
took typing. Not because I'm like, hey, I want to learn how to type the home row so I can be really good with the computer. I took
Hmm.
typing because I'm like, one guy, 29 girls. I
That's where I
like them
figured you were
odds.
going, Chuck.
I like
Yeah.
them odds. I literally failed the class. Failed the class,
Oh.
but it taught me the home row. So I can type pretty fast on a computer because I took
Mhm.
that class I didn't think would have any
Hmm.
impact on me later down the road, right?
Yeah.
So what about math? Is math a required skill that somebody's going to need to do
Not really.
computers?
Not really. I
No.
mean, depending on what you want. If you want to get into development and you want to start working in some of these new things like AI and stuff like that, yes, math is needed. But honestly, to do your job on a daily basis, you don't need math. You don't need programming. You don't need a lot of things to do the normal day to day job of a support technician or an engineer. It's there's a lot more to it, and it's not having that ability to think outside the box. Creative thinking. Um, those are required.
Yeah.
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 Understanding how other people think and communicate is huge.
Well, you open Pandora's box. I have to go down this hole. AI, right? You opened the door, right? There are some people who are absolutely afraid of AI. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who don't understand AI and how it's going to impact them. Do you guys currently have any kind of training or certification on AI? Or are you looking at creating any training or certification for AI?
Yeah, we're working on several different products and offerings. It's it's not the Terminator. There's no Skynet. We're not going to go. Remember, right now, uh, AI runs on a computer. You can turn a computer off.
Mm-hmm.
So um, at the end of the day, it's going to make a lot of jobs easier, but and it may make some jobs redundant. But reality is that it's one of these things that um, I look at it as a tool. You know, everything we do, all the technology, everything that we use, all the cybersecurity skills or infrastructure skills I have, they're all just tools in a
Right.
tool bag,
Right.
and AI is another one of those tools. You know, as a cabler, you got a bag of tools hanging on your hip, and yes, you can take you know, a knife and do a lot with it. but should you pull out your snips? Should you pull out, your lineman's pliers or your electrical scissors and things like that?
Mhm.
I carried all kinds of things around with me, over the years, and it's like, I know that yes, I can do this with a screwdriver and a pair of Klein snippers,
But a
but I
hammer and
should,
chisel might be better.
but I shouldn't be doing that, right? It's all
Yeah.
about knowing what tool you're supposed to use,
Right. Right.
and that's what we teach people is how to use the tools.
Jeff, what's your
I'd
thoughts on
also,
AI?
yeah, there was a phrase when I started programming in, I was using an Atari, what was it, 600. I mean, I'm old. My 13-year-old reminds me of that every day. There's a phrase that we used to use. It's called garbage in, garbage out. And there's a part of AI is the data that's going in. Is it high quality? Is it not? So AI is limited based upon what data we feed it and the quality of that data. That's why you'll get, if you're looking at Microsoft's or Google's or whoever's AI, you might get different answers because there's different data sets going in. So I don't see it as the big threat at the moment. We should keep an eye on what data we're feeding it and making sure it's quality data, so that we get better results. But we were talking about this last week, actually at our town hall. Our CEO is like, if you use AI to write an article or to answer some questions, it's raw. You still have to put your personality into it. You still have to put your touch to it. You still have to edit it and make sure it says what you want it to say. It's not quite there yet, but it is a good tool for now.
No, I agree with that 100%. And so AI in my life has already had a huge impact.
Okay.
And more on the podcast side than the cabling side,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what I mean by that is, so for example, when I get done recording this, that when I go to edit it, I'm going to upload it to my audio platform, and AI listens to the show and writes the description for the show.
Right.
No, I can do that too, but it does it in seconds. It takes me
Yeah.
5-10 minutes to do that. It's easy for me just to kind of peruse through what it wrote. And usually where it gets stuff wrong is people's names, spelling people's names. But it's really good at that. And I've also used AI for research for shows, questions for shows, stuff like that. The thing I found with AI is it's how you prompt your question. If you just say,
Right.
give me 10 questions
right.
on project management, you'll be able to use one. But if you say,
Right.
hey, act as a podcaster working in the low voltage arena who's going to have some guests on the show from a major computer certification thing, give me 10 questions, you will find you'll get a lot better. I guess that goes back to Jeff. Garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right. So now I don't think, I don't think AI is really going to impact the cable installer out in the field, because it's not going to go out there and it's not going to pull and terminate the cable. That's always going to be, a human doing that. But it might help with the processes, the project manager, looking at timesheets, maybe scheduling, stuff like that. But I don't think it will ever really totally take a job. So let's get away from AI again. When we went down that rabbit hole, but you opened the door first.
We did. We both did.
Here's another one I want to touch base on that I think a lot of cable guys don't expend enough mental energy on because they just don't realize the threat. I'm talking about cybersecurity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just doing cabling. That's that computer stuff. I'm not putting in computers. So let's talk about what is cybersecurity, right? Let's talk about that. And let's follow that up with what kind of courses, credentialing that you have that an installer might be interested in.
Sure. For one thing, it's not a piece of technology. It's not something you buy and apply. It's a mindset. It's you're protecting your stuff, right? And that's something that a lot of people still don't quite grasp. I mean, today we've gotten away from all these papers. Back in the day, we used to have filing cabinets full of papers, and that was our customer information, and that was our financial information and our medical information. All this stuff was inside of a filing cabinet or a safe. Well, now it's all online, whether it's on your computer, on your phone, in the cloud, whatever it is. And when somebody breaks into your into your shop and they steal your tools, your insurance company replaces your tools, right? You can get that done. The windows get fixed, and you're back in business. A couple of days without tools, and you're back going to town. With technology today, and every business uses tech today, if they break in and steal your data or delete your data, you can't bill your customers. You can't pull up that work order. You can't find out, pay your employees. You can't do a lot of things. And, back in the day when it was just you worrying about somebody breaking into your shop or your automobile, it's local. It's within 25 miles of where you're at. That's where that person's going to be. With the internet now, it's global. You can actually be on the space station and have internet access. So it doesn't matter where you're at. Anywhere in the world, you can actually risk. So you just open shop everywhere, and you've got doors globally. So it's something you have to take care of.
And one of the things you didn't mention, and you hear lots of stories over the last couple of years, people's networks being hacked into, and then the hackers holding their data for hostage for money.
Yeah, exactly. And when they do it, and what's bad about it, a lot of people will just immediately turn around and pay the ransom. It's called ransomware, and they pay the ransom, and hopefully they get the key to unlock their data, or they get their data back. But that's just a copy.
Right.
They've got your data. Once you pay, they know you're going to continue to pay. So they can come back and say, hey, we're going to leak your data out, and embarrass you, or let your competitors know all your secrets. Pay us this much more money. So it's one of these things. Think of these guys as petty thieves and con men.
Right.
They're always out there, except now they have the ability to sit, in luxury and do this whenever they want to, and not, have to worry about guard dogs out front or video cameras and things like that.
Right.
Just going to jump in and say, it's like, if you're working in a spot where you're installing any kind of device, so if you're residential and you're installing, let's say, a camera doorbell or a home house network or a smart network as part of a house, or you're a commercial and you're installing, a PoE panel or, fire control, pretty much anything that's connected to the net could be like an open window to your house when you go on vacation. There's a risk for any of those things. And I actually, Chuck, Ron, and I were sharing articles this week where a lot of the cybersecurity attacks from bad actors are coming through operational technology now. So devices that are connected to the internet in manufacturing, it's like a 40% increase. So anything that's connected, if you have any men or women that you work for or yourselves, and you're installing something on a network, there's a potential risk. And that's just something not everybody thinks about it. Like Chuck, when we were at Nika Bixie, I was asking a lot of the men and women dropping by, it's like, so do you install anything on a network? Oh yeah, we're doing more and more of that. It's like, well, if it's on the network, then there's a cybersecurity risk. Yep. And not everyone's thinking about that yet, but we're making inroads on that.
It's funny because when we had our pre-show call, and Ron was talking about how he set up his network. Because Ron, you're way more advanced in networking than I am. Okay, but you were talking about. I'm not going to say it here because I want people to know how your stuff's set up. But your network is pretty secure from what you were telling me. Well, I got a wireless router that I can use as a backup for my land-based internet, right? Mm-hmm. And also when I go camping. And so I got the wireless router. It's connected to like Verizon, AT&T, and a bunch of other things. So that way, if one signal bad, it can change over. You always have the best signal. And so that way, we can watch whatever we want to watch. So I got the router and I flipped it over and I looked at the password, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I heard you ringing in my ear. Yeah. Secure your network. Because I don't want somebody breaking into my network, hacking my data, and then putting out to the world that I really spend a lot of time in electrician Facebook groups, even though I'm a low voltage guy.
Right. Well, it's the truth. I mean, the manufacturers try to make these things easy, right? And not everybody's used to technology, so they want to make this thing as easy as possible. And there's a default password and account on just about every device out there, right? Well, you've got to change those things. You can't leave those the way they are, and you don't, especially in a business environment. If you're running a company and you've got guys out in the field and they're installing IP cameras and they're installing access control systems and all of these other devices on networks, and you're putting them in and you're setting things up, you don't want to have your company's default password, that everybody in your business knows, because when the guy doesn't, decides he's going to leave, he has the keys to every one of your clients' environments.
Well, that actually, as you're going down that road, my mind's thinking, because I told you my mind's always thinking. Does that place an additional emphasis on the hiring manager or the company to do their due diligence to make sure that the person they're hiring to install the Ring doorbells and the cameras and access, that they don't have some kind of a criminal background or some kind of a nefarious background?
And that's a big thing. I mean, for years I ran a cybersecurity company for almost 30 years, and believe it or not, we looked at people's social media. I went out and we would dig into what their behaviors were. Are they going out ranting about their employer? Are they sharing information about things that's inappropriate? Well, if they're doing that and they're my employee, what's going to stop them from doing that about us, about our clients? So it is an issue, but at the same time, one of the biggest things in the industry right now, and this affects companies of all size, it's something they call a business email compromise. And it's a simple thing. It is somebody sending an email or a text message to an employee of a company,
right?
Specifically, your bookkeeper, your accountant, whoever's in finance paying your bills, and saying, "Hey, we've just changed. I'm your vendor. We just changed our account number. Send it over to this bank." Mm-hmm. And people just respond.
Yep.
And that's not a cybersecurity issue. That's a business issue.
Right.
That's something where you as a business owner should say, "Hey, if my customer calls me and says change an account number, or sends me an email or sends me a text message saying change this,"
right,
we stop. We go over and pick up a phone and call them based on the number we have internally,
right,
and say, "Are you doing this?" And to make sure, we may do it again with somebody else just to double check, because as in the construction and cabling industry, you're dealing with some sizable amounts of money, especially if you're going out buying supplies. You're having to foot the bill for some of these things. You don't want your paycheck, this money, to be diverted somewhere else just because some con artist was able to send an email.
Yeah, my day job, they're really good at doing these snippet training sessions to help people become better at phishing and stuff like that. And I saw a post on one of my friends' he did a social media post, and it was kind of about cybersecurity. And he said, which one of these is the correct one? And it was said www, and I'm just gonna make up a name, www.capital1.com, www.capital1.com. They looked identical, but the only difference was the A on one was a different font. And if you didn't catch that, you might have clicked on, if somebody came across as capital1.com, well, that's obviously my bank or whatever. And boom, next thing you know, you put in your password, your user ID, and they stole all $13.25 of mine.
Well, that's unfortunately, that's one of the things AI wrongly used can actually make a little easier. It used to be, they used to tell you, look for poor spelling, or if the email came from a Nigerian prince, if somebody was giving you, $100 million that you have no idea, don't respond.
Wait. I'm not getting my inheritance of $100 million?
No, not at all.
Oh, man, I've already retired.
Well, too bad. But I mean, what we found is that you can use AI now. You can use tools out there now to make an email look exactly like an email from FedEx or UPS or your bank, and and it goes through and does the spell checking and the grammar checking and stuff. So it looks identical, and makes it even harder to see. So that's why, these are simple business rules,
Right.
protect yourself.
Yep.
If you fire an employee and you've got, you get your tools back, you get your accounts, you lock them out of your systems, you take away their accesses.
Right.
I mean, there was a guy recently that was fired from a high school in the Boston area, and they didn't shut down his accesses, and he went back in and he deleted
Oh my
systems, and he
gosh.
removed
Yeah.
their accesses from how they control their mobile devices and laptops and phones and things and iPads. Tremendous amount of damage. He finally, they caught him because there's a trail,
Right.
and they caught him, and he now has, he finally pled guilty to it, and he's going to have to spend time in jail for it. But it was a business failure.
It's not even a threat to business, and it just sidetracked here for a second. I was cruising through Facebook a couple days ago, and I'm looking to add a couple Milwaukee Packout things to my modular toolkit set. I've got Modbox and Packouts. I got both, and because I do that, the Facebook ads automatically kind of zoom in and attack you. So this one thing came up, and it's on the icon it said Ace Hardware, a very well-known place that sells stuff. Milwaukee sale. So I click on the link. It takes me to this link, and I mean they had like pack out boxes for like $5, and they normally go for like $50, $100, $150. And I'm thinking, I hear my dad. If the price is too good to be true, son, it's probably not true. And I'm like, no, this can't be. This is Ace Hardware. And then when I took my mouse and I hovered over the link, it didn't say acehardware.com. It was, blah, 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 blah.com, blah, blah. I was like, that doesn't look right. So I just said, you know what? I shut it down. So, no, I'm staying away from that, because I have a feeling that that's not exactly what they're portraying themselves to be. So it's not just a threat to businesses. It's also a threat to your own money and your own accounts and stuff. So.
Yeah, and I would just to add on to what Ron was saying, the two things I try to share as much as possible is, one, make an environment at your job where it's easy to share the mistakes. So if
Yes.
you click on that link, you need to tell somebody. If you're like, okay, I thought I was doing single sign-on for my 401k, but that doesn't make sense. You need to tell somebody. And you need an environment where you feel safe doing that, because the longer you go without reporting it, the greater the risk and peril to your business and yourself. The second thing, if people do scam you out of money, the FBI does a very good job of hopefully getting that money back, but they need to know as early as possible. So that environment where, yeah, you want to train people up to not make mistakes, but these guys, they are so good at scamming. I mean, it's like The Sting, that old movie where they're scamming the scammers. They're really good at what they do. And people who have been in this for 20 years get caught sometimes.
Yeah.
So you need an environment where people can self-report and feel safe doing it. And then when it gets to that level of a crime, you need to bring in the authorities as early as possible, because they sometimes can recover money, because it takes a while for some of that money, the scam tonight. Well,
To go
the
to
Prince of
wherever.
Nigeria
Right.
is not going to be giving you money, but there are other countries that I won't name that they can stop those funds before they get there, if you get early enough.
Yeah, one of my guilty pleasures. I don't watch regular TV. I spend the majority of my time watching YouTube, right? And there's several channels out there that there's computer hackers hacking the hackers' websites and stuff, and wasting their time and exposing them, and turning on their cameras and doing all kinds of stuff to try to get them to quit. Just one of my guilty pleasures.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things, and this is something that, it's more of a personal security issue that I tell everybody about is, a lot of people have when you started out, 16, 17 years old, you get a debit card, you get an ATM card, right? Or you open your bank and you get a debit card. Well, it says Visa on there. So you think, well, I can use this thing like a Visa card. That thing's tied directly to your bank account. So, you've heard about scammers or skimmers and things and ATMs and gas pumps and stuff like that. Same kind of thing exists, electronically. with these websites. So, you can go in and enter your information. And if you put in that card information, which looks and functions a lot like a credit card, but without the protections, you could turn around and find out your bank account's drained. Banks don't have to give that money back. Some do, and that's a good thing. But I always tell people, especially in business, don't use a debit card for anything. Get a credit card. Get a credit card in that name. And even if you got to get one that's just it has a set limit. You can't spend over what your half of your paycheck, and use that for everything that you would swipe a card for, because the minute somebody gets that information, it trickles back to everything you do with it, and if that's your primary method for doing anything, and especially as a business, you could be out of business, have your accounts drained simply by, swiping your debit card at a gas station.
Mm-hmm. Does CompTIA offer any kind of classes on how to identify like email phishing and all those other things?
Not really in in the annual cybersecurity awareness types of things. We do have that information in our courses and in our certifications, okay. And then we have blog posts and things like that talk about that, what to look for. But those are things that are constantly evolving. So, like I said, with some of the tools out there now, I can make that email look just like it came from you, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I can get past and basically con people out of anything that they're dealing with you. Yeah. And it's not difficult to do.
Yeah, I don't trust, if I get somebody sends me a text message, even if it's somebody I know, if they send me a text message with a link on it,
no,
unless I ask for that link, hey, send me a link of that video we talked about at dinner the other night, then I ask for that in advance. But if they're sending me a link I don't know, I just usually respond, I don't click links. Sorry. I just don't, so because I had one of my cousins, I just thought about this. I got a message and it said, hey, Chuck, how you doing? I'm like, and I hadn't talked to this guy in like years. And I'm like, I'm fine. How you doing? He goes, look, I'm in a bind. Can you send me $500? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you're going to have to answer a couple questions first. And he's like, what? I said, okay, when we first met, I worked on one of your cars. What kind of car was it? And what did I do?
Right.
And click, they went away.
Yeah.
Because I knew there's no way they can answer. You couldn't even go on that guy's social media platform and even find that out, because that information is 30 years old.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's not like he's going to say, oh, well, Chuck worked on my blah, blah, blah and repaired my blah, blah. I don't want to say it just in case that guy's watching the show. Right. Just be careful with everything. Everything.
Yeah. Hey, and Chuck, you mentioned Facebook. Every now and then I'll see on my timeline somebody, here's 20 questions we want you to answer, mm-hmm. and like share that info. Like, what's your firstborn's name? What's your favorite color? Don't answer those.
Oh,
Don't answer those. That's social engineering. They're trying to guess your password. Even if the person who did it originally doesn't intend that,
right? A
really good scammer can take that information, social engineer it, and figure out what some of your passwords could be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When I see those, I always answer them, but I always make up the wildest ansers that really don't pertain.
Well, there you go, Chuck. That's even a better answer. It's like, hey,
it's kind of like when you get those wrong phone numbers and they ask for for Bob. You didn't hear? Bob got killed in a car accident last year. There's no Bob living here. I'm gonna waste your time. If you're gonna waste mine, I'm gonna waste yours.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, what a fantastic show. I need to have you guys back on again so we can talk more in depth about cybersecurity, because we started tagging on the end. I think that could be a show by itself. So I appreciate you guys coming on today so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Chuck. Thanks for having us.
So we went over a lot of information, and I hope that you can glean some of the information, maybe take some courses and become better. Because remember, knowledge is power.
That's it for this episode of today's podcast. We hope you were able to learn something. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Also, leave a rating so we can help even more people learn about telecommunications. Until next time, be safe.